บอลชาเลือดเวส of the Cisco device and configure it locally first. So how do you
Cisco routers you might find in use in an enterprise.
Chicker AI's AI Image Generator, a powerful image editing tool tailored for professional creators.
Hello friends, first of all thank you so much. We are now a family of 500. Thank you for all your support. Please keep growing this family. Today in this video, we will understand some networking basics. After my previous video on virtual private network, many of you requested me to make a similar video on other networking fundamentals. This particular video would cover all the networks basics which we encounter in our daily lives of a school. So 10.20. This is a logical address. Anyone who
Hello, welcome to the first lesson in the first module of my new course.
Hello friends, this is Mr. Gupta from Technical Tech, and in this video I am going to explain.
Welcome to my complete CCNA Cisco Certified Network Associate course. This is Jeremy's IT Lab. Welcome to Jeremy's IT.
This is day 0. of my free CCNA course. And a huge shout out to Boson Software, the official sponsor of this CCNA course. They are the reason this can be made available for free, so I highly encourage you to go check them out.
Cisco Certified Network Associate, Day 1. Welcome back, everybody. I am Imran Rafai, your trainer for this entire series. Today we would be starting with network fundamentals. And when I say fundamentals, we would deal with the very, very basic of the networking industry. So this video ideally is not only for the people who are going for the CCNA certification, but anybody who's interested to or looking to start a career in networking, feel free to watch this because you are going to learn a lot. But CCNA as a certification, it's a very, very valuable certification, and I urge everybody to go ahead and take that certification because it is going to add a lot of value. Before I go any further, I would ask everybody to concentrate on the first 3 days of our video, because we would be covering a lot of very, very basic concepts, which, if I can dare, I would say it is going to be the base of your entire networking career, maybe even 20 years from now. So
not going to use this to route to the internet or route as switches, because they
Hello everyone. In this video we're going to talk about DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Now Every computer or device on a network has to have an IP address for communication purposes. An IP address is an identifier for a computer or device on a network. And there are two ways that a computer can be assigned an IP address. It could be done by using a static IP or a dynamic IP. Now, a static IP is where a user assigns a computer or device with an IP address manually. Now, this was the original method that was done in the beginning of networking. So for each computer on a network, you had to open up the computer's network configuration page and manually type in an IP address. But in addition to an IP address, you also had to type in a subnet mask, default gateway, and a DNS server. And anytime that you wanted to add another computer or device to the network, you had to do the same thing. So as you might have guessed, this could be a lot of work, especially if you were dealing with a large network that has a lot of computers. And you also had to make sure that all the IP addresses are unique, because if you assign the same IP address twice, it would cause an IP conflict and would cause those computers to not have access to the network. But there is a better and easier way to assign a computer an IP address. And this is called a dynamic IP. A dynamic IP is where a computer gets an IP address automatically from a DHCP server. A DHCP server automatically assigns a computer with an IP address. And in addition to an IP address, it can also assign a subnet mask, default gateway, and a DNS server. So as an example, here we have the Network Connection Properties window open for the network interface card on a Microsoft Windows computer. And as you can see here, this computer is set to obtain an IP address automatically. So when you choose this option, the computer would broadcast a request for an IP address on the network. Then the DHCP server will assign an IP address from its pool and deliver it to the computer. And then once that's done, you can verify all the different settings that the DHCP server has given your computer. And you can do this by opening up a command prompt on a Windows computer and then type in ipconfig space /all and then press enter. So as you can see here, the DHCP is enabled on this computer, which means that it's getting its IP address from a DHCP server. And then you can see the IP address here, along with the subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server. So all of these settings were given by the DHCP server. So as you can tell, dynamic IP addressing is the best choice because it's automatic and it makes managing a network a lot easier. Now, a DHCP server assigns IP addresses to computers on a network from its scope. And a scope is a range of IP addresses that a DHCP server can hand out. So as an example here, we see a scope of IP addresses on this server. So as you can see, the range starts with this IP address and ends with this IP address. So computers on this network will get an IP address from this range of IP addresses. So
could learn MAC addresses in hardware. So they use something called an application-specific integrated how do you connect to a Cisco router or Cisco switches console port? In this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to look at physical connections using the old traditional methods on an older laptop, and then how to connect to the device using a more modern laptop. I'm going to show you how to configure the devices from the ground up. So, how do you connect to a Cisco router or switch? I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Now, traditionally, a Cisco router or switch would only have an RJ45 console port. These days, fortunately, they now have USB ports. So I'm going to show you firstly how to connect to the device using an RJ45 port, and then I'll show you how to connect to the device using a USB port. So much easier. These days using a USB port. So how do you connect your PC or laptop to the console of a Cisco router or switch? In the old days, we used to use what was called a rollover cable like this. This is known as a rollover cable because pin 1 on the one side goes to pin 8 on the other. Pin 2 goes to pin 7. Pin 3 to pin 6, all the way to pin 8 going to pin 1. So all the pins in this cable are rolled 1 to 8, all the way to 8 to 1. Okay, so what you would do is connect the one side to the console of the router or switch. Don't make this mistake. I've seen many people make this mistake. Please don't make this mistake. Don't connect the other side to the Ethernet port on a PC. You'll blow this port. I've seen it happen too many times where people connect the Ethernet port to their PC or laptop and then connect to the console port of a router or switch, and then it blows the port. This is what's called an out-of-band connection. We are not sending IP across this. So TCP IP traffic is not going across this cable. This is a serial port. So you would, in the old days, need a serial port on your laptop to connect to the router or switch. So here I've got an old Toshiba laptop, really good laptop for its time. What you would need is what's called a DB9 to RJ45 connector. So DB9 converter like this, RJ45 on the one side, DB9 because there's 9 pins here, female pins, and you would connect to the serial port of your PC. So what you would do is connect to the serial port on the one side and to the console port of your router or switch. All over cable like that. RJ45 on the other. And then I'd connect to the router or switch on the other side. So RJ45 on the one side, that the other side. DB9, and then have to today's laptop. So how do you connect a modern laptop to a... Here's a more modern today have a Cisco Asus laptop. The connection to the router. It give me for blowing or PC. First thing I need to do is power up the devices. So I'm going to plug in the power on the router, power it on. Switches like these use what's called a kettle lead in the UK. So a connection like this. This will depend on which country you're in. So the US will be slightly different. They booting up. Okay, so the next thing I need I need to just plug in the power of these devices. And as you can see, lead in the UK, so a connection like this. This will depend on which country you're in, so the US will be slightly different. But basically, I need to just plug in the power of these devices, and as you can see, they're booting up. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is connect the USB console cable to the PC, and then I'll connect it to the console of one of the switches. So I've got USB to console. USB cables are a lot simpler than that. All I need to do is connect USB to USB on the device. Much simpler. Or again, so cable on one, how we see this individual won't just my Mac. What I'm going to do now is connect the console port to the USB connection of the laptop. So hopefully you can see that clearly. I've now connected USB to laptop, and the next step is to connect to the console of the switch. So hopefully you can see that console connection to the switch, USB on a laptop over there. So USB laptop, console switch. Got my first device connected. Let's set up the laptop now so that we can actually configure the device. And to do that, noise, but download console port. This is free software that you can download to .org before. But on Windows, it's simple. But what we want to use is a serial. So to find that, right-click. So which serial port do we use? So to find that, right-click on Windows Start, go to Device Manager. What you'll see is we've got a USB to a converter like this. They generally come with some installation software, or you have to download it. So really old way of doing it, we've got a CD-ROM here. You'd have to install the driver software on your laptop to get that working. Follow the instructions that you get with the converter. I mean, the instructions are fairly simple. It's basically telling us that we need to install the drivers to be able to use this. So make sure that you have your drivers installed. Generally, you get the drivers if it's a reputable vendor such as this, or you can download them. In my experience, the cheap stuff often causes problems. Fortunately, today we have USB connections on the Cisco devices, which makes it a lot easier. So you don't have to mess around with this. But notice the COM port is COM7. So in PuTTY, I need to set this to COM7. Leave everything else at the default. So 9,600 bits per second as an example. Click open. And what we should have when I press enter now is a connection to the switch. And there you go. I've got a connection to the device. Now this is known as user mode, and I typed enable to go to privilege mode. This switch already has a configuration on it. Or it'll list me here privilege mode.